All right. Greetings. Welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything is connected. How's it going? We're live on Callin, YouTube, and Rockfin. And good to see everybody in the chats. How y'all doing? Greetings, salutations. All right, I guess I won't do that yet. Not yet. Where are we? Where am I? What's happening? Well, that's an interesting comment thread from Drag on Rockfin. Suggestions: refuse all dominion and end all war machines, cultivate autonomous empathy, embrace personal responsibility. We are nature, we are earth. 2, like money, the concepts of nation, state, and race are fiction. They are fictional tools of manipulation. True. They are, all of these things are made up concepts. Which actually can be helpful, right? Just because they're made up concepts doesn't make them inherent. It's how they're used is the bad thing. Although the nation state part, I'm not really a fan of the nation state kind of thing because it kind of inherently sets up. I mean, we are a tribal species. Sorry, I'm just messing with my where my box is sitting. There were nation states, there were tribes and villages and communities, and this is how humans organize themselves, right? And there were warring factions of tribes and different peoples of different areas before there were nation states, and then there were nation states, and then there were warring nation states. But I'll continue reading your thread because I think you get to some ideas around that. Behavior on an individual basis that sustains the existential aspects of life on Earth must be continued regardless of money and nation state and race, primarily growing food and distribution of food and housing. I agree with that. 4, loved ones have submitted to potentially harmful injections through money manipulation or loss of job, loss of income, lose food and housing. 5, if humanity is unwilling to transcend the manipulation of money and nation state and race and directly do what it takes to live on Earth, then humanity will exterminate itself along with much other Earth life. Transcendence being key, definitely. I don't know. We live in very interesting times, right? We live in a time where so much communication is at our fingertips. Connection, regardless of geographical location. There's a lot of connection available to us. And a lot of that connection is being manipulated, for sure. But that connection is very powerful. Basil, be safe. Major thunderstorm in Finger Lakes area. Be safe, sir. I mean, we have the power, through technology and through instant connection and communication. We have the power to communicate and accelerate our transcendence, our awakening, our understanding of what is going on. So it is an incredibly powerful tool. That's why, if I was going to lay out my, presidential plan, it's ridiculous, but, presidential plan for tackling climate change or actually addressing what's going on the planet, I know a lot of people would say, well, we have to do away with all technology. And I would say, and we can go around and around on this. A lot of people would debate, but I would say that there would have to be some kind of technology that you'd have to keep on in order to help people through the transition. Some pockets of technology here and there. One of the main ones I would keep would be the internet and computers and phones, because having that connection, having that communication is primal to actually change anything on the planet. I don't think it's going to happen if everybody is suddenly cut off from communication and everybody's just living in their own, communities somewhere on the planet, just doing whatever that they think is the best thing to do as things go forward. We're toast. We're done, right? We're as far as having a controlled degrowth of the planet in order to, or some kind of control over what we do, in terms of not destroying the planet. We're not going to be able to do that without communicating with each other. If everybody's just regionally like going for what they know. Again, we're done. We're toast. Nothing's, it's just going to be disorganized, a disorganized chaos, and down to the very end. So, but again, everything that I'm speaking about is completely hypothetical and somewhat utopian, or somewhat new hopium, or whatever you want to call it. Wendy DeLeese says, with communication technology, though, the oil companies also have the ability to convince people to burn oil even faster. Well, yeah, of course, and they're trying to do that. But the thing is that there is something that's happening with technology, in that people are outpacing. People are, and I'll show a few examples of that later. I don't know if YouTubers are going to be able to see some of these examples, but you might have to get that on Rockfin. But communication and information has actually outpaced some of the best laid plans of the people in charge, right? Because they show themselves to be not that smart. Powerful, manipulative, but not that smart. And so when people have the information at hand, they actually can outpace the controllers and hopefully do things about this. I don't know. TCR says the parasitic plague is going to fight over the last drops of oil. As the oceans die, then it's into oblivion for us naked apes. Properly doomy. All right. All right, let's get into it. Well, saw this and I was like, wow, this is pretty interesting. I don't know that I'm going to be able to read this because it's on Bloomberg, and I don't subscribe to Bloomberg. But we can talk about it anyways. The Western U.S. so what is this is called is they're calling it the end of snow. This thread at one point was called the end of snow, and now maybe it's changed, or maybe I'm tripping. Western U.S. is an empire built on snow, and that snow is vanishing. Disappearing snowpack is accelerating the historic drought across the Western U.S., and so far, government responses haven't matched the scale of the problem. No. That's true. I really doubt I'm going to be able to read this, but we'll see. Disappearing snowpack is accelerating. Well, all right, okay. The western U.S. is an empire built on snow, and that snow is vanishing since most of the region gets little rain in the summer, even in good years. Its bustling cities and bountiful farms all hinge on fall and winter snow, settling in the mountains before slowly melting into rivers and reservoirs. That snowmelt, often traveling hundreds of miles from mountaintop to tap, sustains the booming desert communities of Las Vegas, Phoenix, Salt Lake City, even coastal Los Angeles, and San Francisco. A civilization of more than 76 million people, home to Silicon Valley and Hollywood alike, relies on snow. And they're showing Sierra Nevada snowpack. This is just in 3 years. The difference is quite alarming. From April 2019 to April 2022. So this is real. This is happening. This is, actually happening in reality. This is one of the reasons why the reservoirs and the lakes and the rivers are so low. One of the big reasons. And you can theorize about it all you want. And I'm, a fan of theories. But this is happening in reality. We are losing what used to be a stable climate for humans to exist in and to grow food in and to do all the things in. So that stable climate is going away and is not coming back. That's the thing to realize about this is it's not coming back anytime soon. Because the processes that are destabilizing the climate are accelerating, and they're going forward. They're getting worse. They're not getting better. They're not going to go away. They're not going to reverse. So it's very important to understand that. And there's a vast swaths of humanity that don't understand this is going on, or don't want to understand this is going on, or are being told that this is not going on. And that is unfortunate, because there's going to be a lot of confusion. We are entering the time of great confusion. The snow in the mountains is an incredible gift that created California. Nobody would build all that stuff in a climate that was on the brink of being a desert. He's talking about, how everything came to be. I'm not going to read this whole thing. It was, very interesting and informative article, definitely. But this is a big deal. This is a really big deal. And part of the great confusion, too, we're going to talk more about, I don't know where I'm going to cut YouTube off or not. But part of the great confusion is that countries and organizations, even including the World Economic Forum, they are not generating. This is actually happening. They are not generating this crisis. They are responding to a crisis on some level, perhaps controlling the crisis in their favor, and that surely will happen, right? TCR laid it out. The parasitic plague is going to fight over the last drops of oil as oceans die. So, as things go away, as normalcy goes away, there's going to be a grab for the last of the resources and the last of the power, and to control everything as it goes down. That's literally what is happening right now. That doesn't mean what's happening isn't happening. So you have to understand that. It's very clear, very important that you understand that clearly. And it, again, makes for a lot of confusion, because the powers that be are going to try to implement things to slow this destruction down, this abrupt unraveling of a stable climate. They're going to do things to try to slow this down. Most of it is way too late for to have any, lasting or future impacts. and it will involve people having to give up, what they think is normalcy. And so everybody's going to resist that. And we're going to give up normalcy anyways, right? Whether they try to take it from you or not, whether it's that, they are doing it, whether they do it or nobody does it, your normalcy is still going to end. So you also have to understand that too. So it's very confusing because people are going to resist this, resist any attempts to fight climate change, organized by the WEF or governments or whatever. They're going to resist all of those things, not understanding that you're going to lose those things anyways. And if you were going to have a community-based, people-powered answer to climate change, you're going to give up those things anyways, right? So answer A, B, or C is you're going to give up your shit. So you could resist it and give up your shit. You could go along with it, give up your shit, or you could overthrow the elites and everybody decides what to do going into the future, and you're going to give up your shit. So all the roads lead to you're giving up your shit. You're going to lose your shit. I'm sorry to tell you that. That's just how it's going to go down. I don't want to see it at the hands, or I don't want to see authoritarians control us all the way down. It's not my preference. But again, you're going to give up your shit. I don't care who you are, what you think you have, whether you think you have a say over it or not. You're going to give up your shit. It sucks because I'm going to give up my shit too. That's how it's going to go. I don't know, unless we transcend, unless we magically come together in some kind of way and go like, okay, this is what we need to do. Some of us are willing to sacrifice the stuff, and we're gonna, and especially the people, the kook balls in charge have got to go away. So we're gonna take all their shit first. We're gonna take all their shit. We're gonna take their power and take their shit and take them out of the picture, and then we're gonna try and do our best going forward. I don't know if that's possible. Again, you're gonna give up your shit. Anyways, the snowpacks are shrinking, the climate is changing, the floods are flooding, the heat waves are heating. I mean, this is ridiculous. Climate models predict that even when the current drought ends, the region will get less precipitation overall in the coming decades than it once did. Meaning the drought is never going to end. I mean, if you really read through between the lines in that, when the current drought ends, we will still be in a drought. It will be the mega drought to end all mega droughts. And so knowing this and understanding this and understanding, if the communication was correct, if communication was correct from the leaders to the people to each other, if communication was correct, oh my God, this is going on, this is really bad, we would take large-scale, comprehensive actions in the face of this. Man, we're going to get a whole lot less water. What are we going to do about that? Don't even have time to go into, Anyways, here's another, interesting. I mean, this is just in a few years, right? This is how quickly change is getting upon us, right? This is how quickly it's happening. And, I imagine in about 3 or 5 years, even the people that are like, climate change is a hoax, not even those people are going to be like, oh shit. In about 5 years, because this is how quickly it's happening. July 2017 to 2022. When every single person suffers something at the hands of an abruptly changing climate, there won't really be the availability of even having that thought of like, it's not even a thing, bro. I mean, some people will, to the bitter end, will be like, well, if they'd only stop geoengineering, then the planet would be fine. Shit, no. If we'd only stopped the geoengineering, exactly. If we'd only stopped the geoengineering of industrial civilization, decades and decades and decades and decades and decades and decades and decades of humans doing the things, that's a massive geoengineering project. So you're right. If they'd only stopped the geoengineering. They would only stop the geoengineering. Shasta Lake water levels. This is 2022, very low, extremely low. I just drove past Shasta Lake. It's wild. I mean, it's just mind-bogglingly wild. Anyways, I'm glad that Bloomberg let me actually look at that whole article. That's cool. Anyways, they said the end of snow threatens to upend 76 million American lives. But I just showed you, just yesterday, in the Alps, in Europe, that the Alps, there's no more snow in the Alps. They're losing their snowpack. What's happening in the Himalayas? They're losing their snowpack. Oh, it seems to be happening all over the planet. I wonder what's going on. If they'd only stop this geoengineering, they're losing their snowpack. We're losing our snowpack globally. And that has massive implications for the near future. It's, I don't know. I have a hard time, it's frustrating to me that people cannot understand what's going on, but at the same time, I have a hard time being upset at people that don't understand what's going on, or people that are up in arms about, the WEF or Agenda 2030 or whatever, the Great Reset, whatever you want to call it. I have a hard time being upset at people that are upset about that because nobody understands what is really going on. And, what's not surprising about people rejecting authoritarianism? I will reject authoritarianism myself. I would reject it. However, there are some things that people, the people at the top are proposing. I'm like, I can't, understanding what's going on, I can't be mad at it. I'm like, well, this is going to happen. Oh, I didn't want to actually talk about this right now. But here it is. Here's something that's, again, a lot of people are like, oh, no way. No, you'll never get me to end up. You'll never get me to give up my personal vehicle. Not until the elites do it first. And, okay. But, World Economic Forum calls to reduce private vehicles by eliminating ownership. So, yeah, they're calling for the end of, or, greatly curtailing personal vehicles. For various reasons, because they want to, save resources, or they want to use all the precious metals for renewable energy. I don't know how they're planning on working this one out. Oh, that's interesting. Hold on one second. Human Love Solidarity Brussels Blockchain Conference. System change, not climate change. I mean, I'm very interested in that title. Did you find that to be a good video or a good symposium? I guess I'd actually be interested in watching that. Anyway, some of the things that the elites are going to call for are not, they're not crazy bad ideas. Again, lowering nitrogen emissions is a real thing. Even James Corbett said, yeah, that's actually a problem. We need to deal with that problem. So it's not a crazy idea. Perhaps you don't like how they're going about it, but it's not, the idea itself is not a bad one, and it's not wrong. Interglacial Optimist says the entire U.S. population should be turned into small farmers who maintain 10 acres each and use ruminants to eat cover crops and grow organic vegetables. It's that simple. Or something like that. What if we all lived in cooperatives and we grew our own food, lived very low energy type lifestyles, save for having communications. It actually would be very simple. But of course, as you know, the simple, clear, logical answers are never the ones that make the world go round, right? The dumb, complicated, destructive, toxic answers are the ones that generally tend to be the ones that hold on one second, guys. Okay. Gonna take a pause for just a minute. Hold on one second. No, I'm not home. Yeah. Okay. I'm back. Um, Anyways, some of the things that are being proposed are not completely kooky, even though that will be the reaction of most people. It'll be like, you know, I was born into this paradigm, and anybody who threatens this paradigm that I was born into, and I think that this is the way it all works all the time, and the way it's supposed to work going forward forever and ever, and this is just how it works, right? Anybody that threatens that mindset is going to be met with a lot of resistance. Let's see, where were we? I think I missed something here from Fantomas. Oh, something along the same lines. Fantomas sent me this. A debate has been sparked. I just covered this yesterday about Spain moving to prevent offices and shops and other venues from setting air conditioning below 27°C. Okay, so that actually not a bad idea. I don't think that's crazy. I think that's actually preferable. Fantoma says this is what we discussed on the show. Elites putting the gauge on public citizens, but what is the thermostat in the mansions and the castles? Is an equal sacrifice. I mean, and that is, that's real. I mean, that's a real concern, right? Like, oh, my, they're going to monitor my things and my stuff and my meters, my smart meter and my G meter, my water meter. They're going to monitor all that. But is anybody monitoring, once you get to elite status, if you're somebody with some power and some wealth, right? You can move into the echelon where you don't get metered, right? You can control everybody else. I have a newsflash for you. We already live in that society. That already actually is completely, being poor is expensive already. You're already taxed. Every single movement that you make is taxed insanely if you're poor. Right? It's very difficult to make any moves or do anything if you don't have any money or access to anything. And if you have a little more money, well, then things get a little easier. Right? And on up the ladder. That's just that is already how it works. They're just upping the ante to global digital control, which I don't necessarily want to have happen. Again, though, some regulations are actually good and good for people, right? Like regulating emissions from cars or having people have seatbelts. There's nothing inherently evil about that. That's actually helpful to people. I don't know. A debate has been sparked after Spain's government moved to prevent offices and shops and venues from setting air conditioning. Okay. So, the decree will also stop heating from being raised above 19C. What is that? Like 70 degrees? 65? I don't know. Of course there's going to be a debate about this. Of course people are going to be like, no, this is, authoritarianism. Somebody's saying, perhaps there's a heat wave. I would say that 27 degrees is very hot. Perhaps we could work at 25 degrees, but not at 27. Okay, well, I mean, yeah, if you're working outdoors, maybe 80 degrees and a lot of humidity, that might be uncomfortable, but I don't know about that one. Of course, people are going to be like, no way, man. I don't know. There were things that were done, right? Remember, World War II and people were rationing gas and, supplies because there was a war effort, right? But people sacrificed for the greater good, and the greater good was definitely not war, right? Or winning whatever. I'm not even going to go, obviously, screw war. Wars are bad. I don't want, I think asking people to sacrifice for war, especially now when wars are, we know that they're the sham that they are, is stupid. But if you're like, hey, maybe we should save the planet, I think that would be a worthwhile line item, right? To get people to sacrifice for saving the planet. Okay, check. Yeah, all right. I think I'll do that. I'll only eat meat on Wednesdays to save the planet. That'll do it. And we also live in a different time, right? A different time than World War II. We live in a time of great abundance and everybody gets everything that they want all the time. There is never any, there's never any stoppage of the flow of goods and information and electricity, and is like, oh my God, I can't handle it. Yeah, that's what actually makes it difficult for me as well to, I'm against, I guess, the Great Reset thing, authoritarian control thing. I'm against ridiculously transparently transparent schemes, right, to give the elites ever more control and give you ever less control over your life. I'm against all of that. But when they say like, well, we need to curb personal vehicle use. I don't know. I don't, it's hard for me to be like, well, that's not really, I don't have an issue with that. And limiting nitrogen emissions, I don't have an issue with that. Maybe I have an issue with how you go about it, but I don't have an issue with the actual thing. How about limiting air travel? I don't have an issue with that. Not at all. But all of these things will be seen and taken as, some authoritarian control measure and to be greatly resisted. I don't know. All right, now is the time when I think I'm going to jump off of YouTube because I'm going to talk about other kind of political things, and I never know where I'm going to cross the line, the YouTube line. And I love y'all hanging out with me on YouTube. I'm not a fan of the company, the Google YouTube company. I'm not a fan of, but I don't want to get a strike. I don't necessarily want to get a strike. So YouTube, I'll say goodbye now, and I'll see you all tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time.